Good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually heading to work soon. I have to leave in like 30 minutes, which is why I'm wearing my pre-work chill robe. But I thought before I headed to work, I would come on and talk about a horrible thing that is happening to me, which is literally that all of my hair is falling out. And it is something that has been so stressful and depressing for me for like the last entire year of my life, but more so recently because recently it has been excessively drastic. So I thought I would get on here and make a video just talking about why this is happening to me. But also I feel like when you see people on the internet and social media like YouTube and Instagram, you kind of forget that they have like real problems just like everybody else, and that they have struggles and go through hardships. And this is definitely something that I struggle with on a daily basis. If you are a female and you have ever experienced something similar, you know that it can be extremely devastating when you are used to having one like head of hair your entire life, and then you suddenly have a different head of hair. It is just very, very scary. So I'm going to tell you all about my alopecia story. Alopecia is just basically a general term for hair loss. It can be for a variety of different reasons. There are so many different reasons why somebody can experience hair loss, including medications, medical conditions, stress, vitamin deficiencies, whatever. And mine is kind of complicated, but partially due to an autoimmune disease that I developed in the last year that I never had issues with in the past. So I'm going to tell you guys all about my whole story, and it is a little bit long, so I'm gonna try to get started. For some reason, when I'm making like vlog videos, I feel like it's way easier for me to make them when I'm like walking around. Like for some reason when I stop walking, my train of thought also stops. Also, before I get into my story, I just want to say I do recognize that in the scope of world problems, this is a relatively benign problem. It obviously affects me a lot, but I do realize that it's not the end of the world, and ultimately I'm going to be okay. And I think it is very important to remind yourself of that when you're experiencing something that feels extremely difficult for you. Okay, so where to start? Basically, this has been happening to me since about last April, so it's almost been an entire year. And I initially started experiencing hair loss a couple months after I stopped taking hormonal birth control. And I had been on birth control for 14 years. My doctor basically prescribed birth control pills to me when I was 14, when I just basically started getting my period, because my periods were irregular, which I'm sure is very common for a 14-year-old girl. And I basically started taking it and then took it for 14 years of my life, which in hindsight is completely crazy. I think that is a very bad reason to get on birth control. If I could go back in time, I would never take it ever again. And I will never take it ever again. But I made the decision to stop taking it because I just felt like 14 years of being on a synthetic hormone was just too long. And that's just my own personal preference, but I just felt like it was the time to get off of birth control. I am also totally that psychopath that keeps lint rollers everywhere. And I'm like looking in the background of this video and my bed is just covered in cat hair. This is the story of my life. Okay. So I made the decision to stop taking birth control, and I basically just stopped taking it, and I didn't notice any significant changes until about 3 months later, when I realized that my hair was shedding a lot more than it usually does. So I went to the doctors. I actually went to 2 different doctors, and I am the kind of person that goes to the doctor for literally everything. I literally love going to the doctors. I am just one of those weird people that enjoys it. At that point, I didn't have a general practitioner because I had moved to LA several months before that and I hadn't needed to go. But I did see an OBGYN, and then I saw another doctor that was like a referral from a friend, and both doctors could not give me a definitive answer of why I was losing my hair. And I even suggested that maybe it was because I had taken hormonal birth control, and both of the doctors assured me that that wasn't possible, which I think is totally not true. A lot of women who give birth experience something called postpartum hair loss because of the fluctuation of hormones. So hormones definitely can have crazy effects on your body. But anyways, I got no answers from seeing 2 doctors, and then I finally decided to see a dermatologist who I still see. I actually have the best dermatologist in the entire world. I am so happy that I found them. I genuinely believe they are the best team of doctors that I have ever dealt with in my entire life. So I went to the dermatologist and basically asked the same questions, and when I was there I got a full panel of blood work, and previously I had only had blood work done to check my thyroid, and it had come back normal. So I got my thyroid checked again, but this time with a couple additional tests, and I also got checked for some autoimmune diseases like lupus that can cause hair loss, and I got a full vitamin and mineral panel just to make sure that I was getting all the right vitamins that I needed. So all of my blood tests came back pretty normal, except I did show a deficiency in vitamin D, and I was on the low spectrum for iron as well. I haven't eaten meat in almost 23 years. So I've always struggled with getting enough iron, and I kind of bounced back and forth with taking iron supplements. Other than that, all of my tests were normal. My thyroid was normal. I didn't have lupus or anything else. So my doctor basically said that he wanted to monitor the situation, and he said that it could have been a variety of different reasons, but he said that it is highly possible birth control was the catalyst for why I was experiencing this hair loss, which confirmed all the research that I had done about it as well. So that was in last April, and a couple months later I was still experiencing some pretty significant hair loss. So I went back to the doctor and decided to get a scalp biopsy, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically where the doctor literally cuts out a chunk of your head and it has your hair follicles still intact, and then they send it off to a lab where they can analyze your scalp and your hair follicles and let you know what's going on. So I got a piece of my head cut out, and it got sent off, and the results came back that I had alopecia areata. And I actually partially decided to do the biopsy because I wanted to rule out androgenetic alopecia, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically like genetic balding or male or female pattern baldness that a lot of people experience as they age. And I thought that maybe stopping birth control had like kicked in early onset androgenetic alopecia, but I did get the biopsy done and that is not the case. So my test came back positive for alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease where your body basically attacks your hair follicles and causes your hair to fall out. And usually it presents itself in patches. So a lot of times people that have alopecia areata have distinct patches where they have no hair at all. And a lot of times the hair will start to grow back and then it will fall out again, and you just kind of cycle through that. And I thought it was a little bit strange because I didn't have any notable areas that had no hair. However, I do have a couple different areas on my head that have a lot less hair. Like, they're not complete like bald spots, but there are a couple areas that are significantly more sparse than the rest. I have one underneath my head at the base of my hairline. I also have one on the right side that is closer to my hairline over here, and if I like part my hair, you can kind of see it, but when my hair is just like normally parted, it's not very obvious. So I was relieved to kind of get a diagnosis, but I also thought that on top of having alopecia, something else was also going on, because I was also experiencing like diffuse thinning throughout my entire head and not just in single areas. And my doctor suggested that when I stopped taking birth control, again, my body might have had like a significant shed, kind of like when people experience telogen effluvium and have like a significant amount of hair loss. So basically it's just been like a waiting game ever since then. So I genuinely feel like birth control was the catalyst for a lot of my hair loss. I think that maybe taking hormonal birth control and taking synthetic hormones for 14 years gave me an autoimmune disease, which is extremely scary, but seems entirely possible to me. There are steroid injections that you can get in your scalp for alopecia areata, but mine is not at that point where I feel like I want to do that. And because I am trying to stay away from antibiotics and everything like that, I am opting to not do that. Another thing is that throughout this entire experience for me, no one has ever come up to me and told me that my hair looks any different, including my boyfriend, who I live with and see obviously on a regular basis. It is something that is like more noticeable to me. However, when I look at photos of myself from a year and a half ago and compare them to like pictures now, I see a dramatic difference. I have probably lost a little bit over 50% of my hair, and I am not even exaggerating. So yeah, it's really fucking scary. Anyways, while all this was happening, I was also experiencing crazy breakouts, which I have always had issues with my entire life. I have struggled with adult acne for like 10 years, and I think also stopping birth control was just like changing my hormones so much that my skin was going crazy. So I decided while I was going through this bout of hair loss, I was going to take Accutane, which I had actually opted to never take in the past because I was so scared of having hair loss from it, because that is a possible side effect. And for some reason, I thought that while I was experiencing this hair loss, I might as well take Accutane at the same time and just knock it out so that I could like get it all over with. And I know that sounds totally crazy, but that was just basically how I felt. Like, the hair loss I was experiencing was dramatic, but it wasn't affecting my life that much. Like, I felt like I could deal with it. So I was pretty much like, okay, if I'm gonna lose more hair, I might as well lose it now and then come out of all of this with clear skin and hopefully like some hair left. So I did take Accutane. I did a 7.5 month course of Accutane. And if you don't know what Accutane is, it's basically a very serious medication. It's an internal retinoid that shrinks your sebaceous or oil glands to get rid of acne. And I actually feel like in a couple months into taking Accutane, I stopped having significant hair loss. Like, it kind of like tapered off, and I was getting a lot of new regrowth, like baby hairs, and I still have like a lot of like baby hairs, like from where like my hair has fallen out and is now kind of growing back. So yeah, when I was on Accutane, my hair did get extremely dry though, which it still is. Like, it's really weird because your hair stops producing oil like entirely, and I've actually been off of it now for almost 2 months, and my hair is still not producing any oil at all. It is so dry, and no matter what I put on it, like I can put a vat of coconut oil on my hair and it literally still looks extremely dry and damaged. So yeah, didn't experience crazy hair loss for the first couple months, but then towards the end of my treatment, when I had like about 2 months left, my hair was so dry that I feel like it started to shed again because of the dryness. And then like a month before I stopped taking Accutane, I was experiencing again very dramatic hair loss. And now that I've been off of it for 2 months, this is the most my hair has ever shed in the last year. Like, now my hair is like coming out in actual clumps. Like, when I take a shower, or even when I like run my hands through my hair, I'll pull out like tons of pieces of hair. Very, very depressing. So that is basically what is going on. If you guys have ever experienced hair loss for any reason, whether it is an autoimmune disease or anything else, I totally sympathize with you. It is extremely depressing. You know, I know totally the feeling of not feeling like you want to go outside because your hair doesn't look the way you want it to, and I know that sounds so stupid. I feel upset about it, but I don't feel like self-conscious talking about it. It's not like my deepest, darkest secret or anything like that. I honestly feel like I could talk about this with anybody and not feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. It's just what is happening to my body, and I'm sure that to a lot of people it looks totally the same, but to me it's just like so detrimental feeling sometimes that I just don't want to be seen by people. I don't want to be on camera, and like it definitely affects my life. And I always think to myself, like, what is the worst that could happen? Like, what is the worst thing that could happen? And you know, the worst thing that could happen is that literally all of my hair falls out. While that would be devastating and difficult to deal with, I know that if that happens, I will be fine. It definitely isn't ideal, and it's not like what I want, and I actually do have faith that my hair is going to grow back, and hopefully it will stop falling out at the rate it's been falling out. At this point, I can't believe that I actually even have like any hair on my head. But yeah, like, I always try to look at it in real life terms of what is the worst thing that could happen. So no matter what happens, I know that it's gonna be okay. And if you're going through something similar, then my advice to you is that it is literally going to be fine. I know it might feel really scary, and I know it might feel like it's the end of the world, and it can be very depressing. However, in the scope of life, it's going to be fine. Also, thank you to whoever commented on my video the other day and told me that my hair looked really nice. Seriously, really made my day. If you guys like videos like this that are more personal, then let me know. If you've had an experience similar to this, then feel free to talk about it in the comment section below. I would love to touch base with you. Or if you just want to leave me a comment telling me what you did today. I love connecting with you guys and talking about just random life things. So I will see you guys very soon in my next video, and I will talk to you then.